The last thing about strategy is the 10th house, which is the highest point on your natal chart. It's the energy that people are looking to you for. This is your public image and your impact. It's the energy the public eye perceives you in. As much as you may be being something else, it's what people really want from you.
Welcome to the Process to Profit podcast, where we find out about the key processes and productivity techniques that drive successful service-based businesses. Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale, join us as we uncover practical strategies to streamline your operations and help you make more money by boosting your profitability. Let's get started. My guest today is Maggie Hunter. Maggie is a spiritual business coach, evolutionary astrologist, and psychotherapist who empowers new female soul-led entrepreneurs to create freedom and prosperity by building businesses aligned with their unique purpose. She guides women who have experienced personal transformation and are now ready to transition into entrepreneurship with a desire to help others navigate similar transformative journeys. Maggie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
This is so exciting.
So you and I met because I reached out to you about working with you and your membership, and I loved really what you were doing. You were working with specifically astrology for business owners, and I have been dabbling in an interest in astrology for my whole life, so I would love to hear more about how astrology relates to owning your business, how it impacts owning a business, but first, tell us about how you got started, how you even have an interest in all of this. Where did this come from?
Yes, thank you for asking. I definitely didn't start here, as we don't normally start where we are. I feel like I've lived 10 lives in one and have gone through a lot of transformations and reinventing myself through lots of really tough situations. I originally started my journey in the corporate world mindset in psychotherapy until everything changed after I had a spiritual awakening, which cracked me open to my soul's calling and my gifts. Then I became a manifestation coach after mentoring with a Peruvian shaman for 2 years and really mastering energy. But then I eventually hit a wall when I realized that there's way more to manifestation than just doing the steps, right, to make money. I really found that a lot of clients were coming to me expecting that bags of money were going to fall, from the sky if they just did these steps, which wasn't the case, right? That's basically the point where I discovered evolutionary astrology, became certified in it, and I really found that that was the missing piece to everything. I realized that financial wealth, financial sustainability really comes through creating channels aligned with your soul's calling for the universe to flow abundance to you. So everyone has a mission. Everyone has a mission, even people in the corporate world. This really is for everyone. But now I help soul-led entrepreneurs build and scale their online businesses.
Wow, that is quite the journey. And I may be in that group that expected manifesting to just work and for bags of money to drop from the sky. Did not work that way. Shocking, I know. So you mentioned evolutionary astrology, and I have never heard that term before. So can you explain to me what even that is and how it relates to manifestation, if it does?
Yes, absolutely. So evolutionary astrology is a branch, a type of astrology that studies the structure of the soul. So there are all different kinds of astrology. What you may be familiar with is astrology to learn your personality, right? Your sun sign and typically personality stuff is just sun sign. But with evolutionary astrology, it really is the structure of the soul, showing your soul through many lifetimes. There's nothing about this life that's not past life related because time is irrelevant. The past, the present, and the future are all happening at one time. So when I look at a chart, I can see the purpose of your soul. I can see past lives, what was left unfulfilled, what your purpose is coming here. There's so much detail in the chart when perceived through an evolutionary astrology lens.
That is so fascinating. I don't think I've ever heard it framed that way before. So I'm excited to dig in more. So how do you pull up someone's chart? Like, what information do you need to actually be able to read their chart and understand it?
Sure. We need an exact birth time, which is some people are like, no, I don't have my exact birth time. And they're freaked out about it and they're trying to get it. And um, it's not as accurate when you don't have your birth time because your ascendant sign moves degrees per
Mm-hmm.
specific minute. So even if you're off like 30 minutes, it's existential crisis because then you learn about yourself, right, as a specific rising sign. And then come to know that it's not your birth chart. So you need an exact birth time, birth date, and
Oh, is that
birthplace.
all? Okay. Well, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
If you know your birth time, I
Yeah.
guess.
That's easy enough. If
Which
you
I
know your birth
fortunately
time.
do. So, um, yes, for
Oh,
some reason,
awesome.
my mother repeats it every year, so it's makes it easy. So yes,
No
she
way.
does it for all of her children. She knows exactly what time all of her children were born. So, um,
Oh my
yes,
goodness. I love that.
it's funny because she remembers what time my sister was born because we had to pull my grandma out of bingo to go to the hospital for my mother to give birth to my sister. So I say we, I wasn't born yet, but so once you have someone's birth chart, how does that help them in their business? How can you use that to help them develop or build their business?
Okay, yes, for sure. So there's two parts of this. There's soul and there's strategy. And as you know, in entrepreneurship, we often focus heavily on just the strategy and we don't bring in the soul aspect. So when I look at the soul part, I am looking at your soul journey. So your natal chart is an actual mirror of who you are and also how you are evolving in the present time. What that means is that when you pass, your body passes and you are reborn. So evolutionary astrology takes on the belief that reincarnation is real. Energy can't be created nor
Hmm.
destroyed, right? First law of
Hmm.
thermodynamics. So when I'm looking at the chart, each placement, each planet in the chart is showing me what you came here to work on. So when someone says, oh, wow, you're lucky, you have Venus in the second house of money. Well, you're not actually lucky until you break the patterns, the karmic patterns that you came here with, the lessons that you need to learn, and the karmic patterns in order to overcome something, in order to express the highest expression of that place. With the soul part, you know that entrepreneurship is the ultimate
Hmm.
self-development
Hmm.
journey, right?
Yep.
Right? The amount of income,
Hmm.
yeah, for sure. The amount of income and impact that we create directly reflects how much we grow as a person. So, getting out of our own way in entrepreneurship is the ultimate
Yes.
tool, right? But when we look at it as, say, for instance, someone realizes that they have a limiting pattern and they're like, okay, I need to go to a psychotherapist. I need to break these patterns. The problem as a psychotherapist that I see with this is that it usually takes years to find the
Mm.
limiting pattern. Freud created psychology to be effective at the 5-year mark because it is very difficult to get into the subconscious. Astrology, evolutionary astrology in particular, your natal chart is the map of your
Mm.
subconscious mind. So within 10 minutes, I am able to see all of the influences and then the patterns that are alive, that it's like a video game. It's like you beat these boards and you get to go to
Hmm.
the next level. That is the soul part of astrology. The other part of a soul of astrology, which is really cool, is as a coach, and even I will tell you that I have seen people that are entrepreneurs that are not coaches in particular that choose a niche that is very aligned in their natal chart. So I can see someone's niche that is going to earn them income and impact combined with their life experiences in
Mm.
their natal chart,
Yeah, it
which is
is.
super
I feel
cool.
like I need to have you
Yeah.
read my chart to know if I'm doing the right thing or not.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Right. And then the last part of the soul is, and this is my favorite part ever, is manifesting. So manifesting really is taking something from energetic thoughts and beliefs and manifesting it, which means putting it into physical reality that we get to experience. So, how do we do that? Manifestation is the path to becoming the highest expression
Hmm.
of yourself. It is almost impossible to see what that highest expression is and what you're working with, the tangibility, unless you have your astrology chart. So each one of those placements in your chart has a high expression and a low expression. So when you are in a higher expression, higher vibrational state of your own soul journey, opportunities just flood in, literally flood in. And that's the way
Hmm.
manifestation works.
Okay. So just to make sure that I'm understanding, your birth
Hmm.
chart, according to evolutionary astrology,
Hmm.
sort of dictates but helps inform what you should be
Hmm.
doing, what your soul's purpose is. And then you can use,
Hmm.
once you have your karmic board cleared, I guess, um, you can use
Yeah.
manifestation then to start bringing things into your life that align with your soul, align with your purpose. Am I getting that correct? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So,
Hmm.
how do you work with clients then to, like, what if they're doing something that's totally against their natal chart and they're really enjoying it? Like, what if they're doing something and you're like, that doesn't really make any sense? How do you help them then? Or do they need help, I guess?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. I actually haven't found anyone yet, and I've read hundreds of charts that are enjoying what they're doing, and it's not in their
Okay.
natal chart. It's not
That is
reflected in their natal chart.
fascinating.
It's reflected somewhere. Hmm.
Yeah, that's fascinating because
Hmm.
I would think
Yeah.
that so it must mean that we're in tune with it somehow to know, like, this is what I should be doing and I'm enjoying it, and it's also
Hmm.
reflected in the natal chart. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, super, right? I feel like the people that are naturally doing what they're meant to doing just intuitively are more evolved as a soul. It's like they came here with a higher level of consciousness and they're just more intuitively connected
Mhm.
from what I've seen.
Would you say that entrepreneurs in general are probably more in tune with their soul and probably more highly evolved in general? Because I feel like
Uh,
you have to be at a certain level to understand that you want to be an entrepreneur and to really pursue it because it is hard, as we have discussed.
it is hard. Yes. Actually, I think that oh boy, this is a big question, Lauren.
I'm asking the hard hitting
Why I
questions
have
today.
yeah, this is a really big question. So I've actually seen the opposite. I feel like most entrepreneurs get stuck at step one, get stuck on their niche because they don't really know
Mm.
themselves. They don't know their selves very well. And, telling someone, well, you're just helping someone three steps behind you is not very helpful.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, well, who do I help? And what is my niche in this? I have seen, I mean, the people that I've had seen have had the most difficult with entrepreneurship are the ones that can't get over their niche, right? And
It
that's a
is.
lot of
That
people,
yes.
really, right? Um, and then it's, well, who's my ideal client? All of that is in the chart. All of that you can see in your natal
That
chart,
is
which is
wild.
wild. Yes.
So, what kind of
Yes.
specificity are we talking in the natal chart? Like, obviously,
Mhm.
astrology when it was created, and I guess I don't know how old evolutionary astrology is, but when astrology was created, we weren't like,
Mhm.
there's CEOs and women over here over 40 and women who have purple hair and like it's not that kind of
Yes.
specificity, is it?
I have really narrowed it down to be super specific. However, we are dealing with archetypes and energy. So when I look at the ideal client, we're looking at a few things, but when we look at the natal chart specifically, we're looking at the seventh house, which is the other, and it's clients and partnerships. So say for instance, I have Cancer on the seventh house. And I noticed that I deal with, regardless if it's someone's sun sign or not, I deal with lots of Cancerian energy within my clients. They need a
Mm.
lot of nurturing. And I'm a Capricorn rising. So it's very difficult. There's a polarity between the first house and the seventh house. I am, I'm like, I'm not normally that. You're the
Hmm.
opposite of that. So it's very helpful in understanding what your clients need from you.
Interesting. Okay. So you're saying based on
Mhm.
your birth chart, you are not normally very nurturing, but you're attracting people who need nurturing, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm nurturing to
Right.
my kids, right? I'm a mother. But with clients, I know I have to be hyper aware that they all have those Cancerian energetic, archetypes
Okay.
about them.
All right. So let's take a step
Mhm.
back a little bit more and kind of circle back to the
Okay.
two different pieces we talked about in the beginning. We talked about soul and we talked about
Hmm.
strategy. And so you've dug a little bit into the
Hmm.
soul part. How does strategy then play into all this? Should strategy be related to your birth chart, or is it kind of its own thing? Like, how does it all kind of play together?
Okay. So strategy is I look at specific houses and I'll go into them right now. And I also work with transits. So let's start with the houses. When we look at your natal chart, the second house is known as the money house. And it's also known as your values and self worth and self belief and how we actually view money. But most people are like, oh, it's the money house. You have this sign and that. You are only able to make as much money as you believe in your own skills and you value yourself. So self worth is positively correlated to how much income you can actually make. So the second house cusp, whatever sign is ruling that house is going to tell you your skills. So what kind of offers you should be making and also what you need to believe in your own self in order to increase your self-worth. So you can go out there and be an entrepreneur, right? We need to be seen. We need to show up.
So you're saying you look at these things on the natal chart and then you can go back to your client and say,
Mhm.
okay, based on what I'm seeing, here's what I think you should do in your business. Here's the offers I think you should offer. Here are who I think you should help. Here are the focus areas that I think you should have. Is that kind of how it works for strategy?
Yes. And also with strategies, that was
Mm-hmm.
just one thing. So the sixth house is our daily regimens with health and work. So I look at the sign on that house to tell us it's like tilling the soil, building business building activities. So whatever sign is there is whatever's there and you tap into that energy is going to propel you much faster into being successful when you are doing activities aligned with that sign. The last thing about strategy is the 10th house, which is the highest point on your natal chart. It's the midheaven. And this is the energy that people are looking to you for. This is your public image and your impact. And it's the energy that the public eye perceives you in. It's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. So as much as you may be being something else, it's what people really want from you. So it's interesting because yes, it can also dictate part of your niche. I have a niche cocktail that I've created that has certain places, but regardless of what you do, it is the energy that people perceive you through and want you to be in. It's very
Okay.
interesting.
All right. So it gives you kind of different pieces to the strategy that you can then help people figure out how they actually implement it, how they use it in their business, and how they present themselves to the world based on their natal chart. Okay.
Yes. And then the last thing is my favorite is working with transits. So we have the natal chart that's static, but the planets in the sky are always moving and they're always interacting with our natal chart. And that's how we actually evolve, right? As humans and souls in a human body. So when we were looking at transits, the slower moving planets are going to tell us where major transformations are happening. my favorite planet to look at is Saturn, because Saturn is in an area of life for 2.5 years. And it is telling us where the work needs to be put in, because it is not going to get back to that place again for
Oh,
29
wow.
to 30 years. And yeah, yes.
Hmm.
So it's where we feel restricted at that time. But if we put in the work, we can become a master at in that area of life at that time. And then there's a different kind. It's not a transit, but it's an annual
I
perfection.
have
Have you ever
not.
heard of that?
Nope.
Annual perfection? Okay. So we have a concentration of energy in a specific house each year. So you can just Google annual perfection and you look at your age and then you go, oh, this year there's going to be a focus of energy in this area of life, which is
Hmm.
very interesting. And then the last thing is your progressed moon. So we have progressed planets, which just means that, like I said, the natal chart is the static map, but it's really not static. It's always evolving with transits. And we can see where our emotional self is. So I'll give you an example. It's like you've been doing something for 10 years and all of a sudden your progressed moon moves into a new area of life and you're like, whoa, like I feel like stepping back from my business. And then, all of these feelings come up. But if you knew that your progressed moon was, say, in the 12th house, you would know that, wow, this is a really big time for reflection and I'm not going to shut down my business. Right. So it's very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yes, this is all fascinating. So, how can, say, the average person does not have
Mhm.
access to their birth chart, their natal chart, or an expert like yourself? How can sort of the average lay person use this knowledge in their business? Or can you really only do it with an expert? Like, can I look at my horoscope and or other information online and then use that to
Mhm.
help me build or run my business in a certain way? Is that possible for a person without this sort of training or experience?
I would say to actually build your business and to be effective in your business, definitely contact an astrologer, a professional astrologer, a business astrologer that has this information. However, if you go to astro.com, it's a very easy astrology site to work with. If you just start learning about yourself, right? It's like, who said that?
Mhm.
Know thyself. Was it
Mhm.
right? If the more you know about yourself, the better you can position yourself and what you're supposed to be doing. If you have a lack of understanding of who you are, you're going to have a really difficult time being an entrepreneur. So if you go to the astro.com and you put in your birth details, it will give you information about yourself. It's very eye-opening with
Mhm.
just that.
And so once it gives you that information, how can you use that in your business? Can you extrapolate that information yourself, or do you still need an expert to kind of figure out those next steps?
You need an expert to figure out
Okay.
those next steps.
So I'm coming to you as a business client, and I have had my business for a few years. What does it look like for us to work together?
Mhm. If you've had your business for a few years, it is more about scaling your business. And it's really going in and seeing where you're blocking yourself energetically, right?
Mhm.
That's what we do. We unconsciously do this. So it really has to do with cleaning out and making room for energetic capacity. And I'll explain energetic capacity a little bit because it's really important
Mhm.
to understand. So as business owners, it's very easy to get overwhelmed,
Mhm.
right? Right? We have emails to answer. We have also a team, if you have a team to delegate to, and all of the things. And we have our families and everything that comes in between. But when we're holding on to patterns unconsciously, the box is full. We don't have energetic capacity. So when I have entrepreneurs that come to me and they want to scale their business, we really look at expanding their energetic capacity through looking at patterns to dissolve and to release.
What does the process look like? I come to you, I'm a business owner who is stuck at a certain level but can't get past it.
So, what I've seen is when someone comes to me and they are stuck at a certain level, I see that strategy has only gotten them so far because, I mean, with strategy alone, it's easy to make, a consistent 100K a year with a
Hmm.
simple funnel, right? But when we move beyond that as entrepreneurs, what I have found is that their why, and this may seem so simple, but the why and their work and the conviction that they have is not as strong as it needs to be. They're not energetically connecting with their audience on a subconscious level. You know that we sell
Hmm. Hmm.
subconsciously, right? Like people
Yep.
can smell bullshit, right? When you're not convicted in your work. So, part of my process working with entrepreneurs that scale is going into the conviction elements. I can see in the chart from past lives things that were left
Mm.
unfulfilled. And that deeply connects to the soul's calling and the mission of what they're here to do on the planet. And when someone, I have seen this and I have been blown away. I mean, it's happened to me personally, but the person that's speaking on a video before finding out this information and someone after even looks different. Like if they show up and they actually physically look different when they're convicted in their works. And that's just one thing. But ancestral patterns it comes to play with all of this, ancestral patterns, generational patterns. I I can see it in the chart working through these things and dissolving, say for instance, it's
Hmm.
always something. It's always of fear of speaking or it's like the person knows that their next step is to do a TEDx talk, but they are mortified to get onto stage. That is often times a past life pattern and something that happened. I look at generational trauma in the chart. And when we work through it I like to do narrative therapy. I also like to do acceptance and commitment therapy for this to get over certain things. But when we work through these patterns and we dissolve them, it's like it's just like right away. So my favorite thing to do is identifying where
Hmm.
the block is. I like to go in, it's like surgery. We go in, we find the blocks, we dissolve them, and we align to their next steps in business and we make the conviction much
Okay.
stronger.
So when you're working with a client, is it more therapy that you look at, or is it more coaching, or do you kind of combine the two? What does that look like from you?
So I actually don't bring in the psychotherapy component because I am a licensed psychotherapist. In the coaching world, we don't bring in the HIPAA and the regulations that the corporate, psychotherapy model brings in. But I am a licensed psychotherapist. I've been doing this since 2015. So it's very difficult for me to not coach and use psychotherapy to break patterns. So it is happening interchangeably.
Okay, so people are getting sort of both from you, even if sort of um
Yes.
more casually. Casually is not the right word, but informally, I guess it's the right word. Yes.
Informally
All
coaching.
right. So I know that you mostly do group sessions right now. Are you still doing like chart readings one on one, or is it all in the group? And then what does that look like for someone to actually work with you in the group setting?
Yes. So I do astrology sessions right now, do them on Mondays only. And what it looks like in a group setting. So I have two groups that run completely separately, but I'm actually launching a school at the end of the year that's going to combine both building and scaling an
Hmm.
online business. The next program that I have is Karmic Cleanse. And it's essentially everything that we just spoke about. It is going in and creating um, maps, essentially trauma maps, pattern maps, and dissolving all of the patterns so that you are able to scale your business. So it's all about
Hmm.
taking action, right? As an entrepreneur, and we are our own worst enemy. So that is what Karmic Cleanse does, and that is launching
Oh, well, that's
next month.
exciting. But how does that work in a group setting? Are
Mhm.
you still able to give people sort of that
Mhm.
personalized attention, or what does that process actually look like when you're in a group with other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I love to do a hybrid business model. So when I'm creating a new program, I will do a live workshop once a week and then there will be a 2-hour coaching call. And I don't ever take more than 10 people in a group so that everyone can get personalized attention. And I also offer Voxer support in between
Hmm.
as well for, for to maximize support
Okay. And I think
essentially.
you said that you also
Mhm.
do individual chart readings as well. Is that correct? Okay.
I
So
do.
someone could
That is
come to you
correct.
and get their
Mhm.
chart read and then join one of your group programs, presumably. Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
So I do have one final question for you, but before we get to that, I
Sure.
want to thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I learned so much. I had no idea that astrology and especially your natal chart could impact your business so completely. I feel like I might need to sign up for a reading. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I am on Instagram at unboundcollective.co. And thank you so much for having me. This conversation was so exciting. I love talking
Great.
about this stuff.
And I think you said you had a free gift for our listeners and watchers. What can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. It is a comprehensive astrology guide. You can go through the guide and learn how to step by step pull up your chart from astro.com and how to read
Okay.
it as
All
well.
right. So I will make sure that I link that in the show notes and in the YouTube description. And then our final question today, what would you say to someone who is skeptical about all of this and how it influences their business?
I used to be extremely skeptical too. So I would say to just have an open mind and get an astrology reading because you cannot make this stuff up. You'll be incredibly shocked to hear about yourself. That I mean, who else, unless they're psychic, right, would know these things about you? So just have an open mind, get an astrology reading,
And see what happens. Yeah.
and see what
All right,
happens.
great. Well, thank
Maureen.
you again so much for being here. I really enjoyed talking to you. And thank you all for watching or for listening. And I will talk to you all again soon.